Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the Rune Slayer race tier list, ranking every race in the game from best to worst. Whether you're picking your first race or looking to optimize your build, this video will help you choose the strongest race for your playstyle. We'll be breaking down all the races based on their passives, stat bonuses, and overall effectiveness in both PvE and PvP. Some races will dominate the battlefield, while others might hold you back, so stick around to find out which one is the best. If you enjoy tier lists, guides, and Rune Slayer content, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps out a ton and keeps you updated on all the latest strategies. Comment below which race you think is the strongest. Now, let's jump into the tier list. C tier races are the weakest options in Rune Slayer. Alright, let's start with C tier, the bottom of the barrel. These races aren't completely useless, but compared to others, they just don't offer much. They either have underwhelming passives, situational bonuses, or just get outclassed by better options. Orc, a tough race that falls short. Now, at first glance, the Orc might seem like a solid choice. It's got extra health regeneration, some resistance to heat, and even an increased hunger bar. But the problem? None of that really makes a huge difference in actual fights. Sure, healing a little faster sounds nice, but 10% regen isn't enough to save you when things get intense. And the hunger bonus? That's more of a survival perk, not something that's going to help you win battles. The Orc is one of those races that tries to be tanky but doesn't quite get there. If you want durability, there are much better options to pick from. Unfortunately, this race ends up being one of the weakest in the game. B tier races a decent, but not the best. Moving up from C tier, we've got the B tier races. These ones aren't bad, but they're not amazing either. They have some solid passives and can work well in the right situations, but they're just not as strong or versatile as the higher tier races. If you pick one of these, you won't be at a major disadvantage, but you might find yourself wishing for something better later on. Human, the jack of all trades. First up, we have the human race. Now, humans are pretty well rounded. They don't have any huge weaknesses, but they don't really excel at anything either. Their main passive gives them a damage boost and damage reduction when they're below 50% HP, which can help in clutch moments. But let's be real, if you're already low on health, you don't want to be relying on a last-second damage buff to save you. On top of that, humans get some minor mana efficiency boosts, which is nice, but nothing game-changing. Overall, they're a safe pick, but they don't offer the kind of power or utility that higher tier races bring. Half-orc, tanky but lacking impact. Next, we've got the half-orc, which is a bulkier race with some defensive perks. It comes with a boost to max HP, damage reduction, and some extra robustness, making it one of the tankier options in the game. If you like taking hits and staying in the fight, this race isn't a bad choice. The downside, it doesn't do much else. Sure, you'll survive a bit longer, but you won't be dealing massive damage or getting any crazy movement buffs. In a game where offense is just as important as defense, half-orc feels a bit too one-dimensional. It's solid, but not outstanding. Dullahan, the risky powerhouse. Lastly, we have the Dullahan, which is probably the most unique of the B tier races. This one is all about risk and reward. The more enemies you defeat, the stronger you get, gaining lifesteal and defense boosts. That sounds amazing, right? Well, here's the catch: if you get caught off guard or don't keep up the momentum, you're way more vulnerable. Another weird thing about Dullahan, your head is treated like a camera, which takes some getting used to. If you're comfortable with the playstyle, this race can be fun and rewarding, but it's not as consistent or reliable as the top tier choices. And that's it for B tier. Not bad, but not great either. These races can work, but they're not game changers. Now, let's move on to A tier, where we start seeing some truly strong options. A tier races, a strong and reliable choices. Now we're getting into A tier, where races start to feel a lot more powerful. These aren't quite at the top of the meta, but they bring some really useful passives that can give you a solid advantage in both PvE and PvP. If you're running one of these, you're definitely in a good spot. Elf, the speed demon. Starting off, we have the Elf, which is perfect if you like fast-paced combat and mobility. This race gives you a speed boost, better stamina efficiency, and even faster health regeneration, making it one of the best movement-based races in the game. If you're the type of player who likes to dodge, reposition, and stay ahead of your enemies, the elf is a fantastic pick. On top of that, it has a special ability where it can temporarily become invisible after using focus. That can be insanely useful in both PvP and PvP, whether you're setting up an attack or escaping danger. The only real downside, it's not the tankiest race, so if you get caught, you're in trouble. But if you can use its speed properly, you'll be a nightmare to deal with. Aluran, the defensive acrobat. Next up, we've got the Aluran, a race that's all about survivability and maneuverability. It comes with a speed boost, extra resistances, and a jump height increase, making it a great choice for players who like to stay mobile while also tanking a few hits. One of its biggest strengths is its passive damage reduction, which can make a huge difference in longer fights. Plus, it's resistant to both fire and cold, meaning you won't have to worry as much about environmental hazards. The Aluran is basically a great all-around race, especially if you want to stay in the fight without going down too quickly. Slime, the underrated tank. Finally, we have Slime, a race that doesn't get enough credit. This one is all about magic resistance, meaning if you're up against spellcasters, you'll have a huge edge. On top of that, it has a unique passive where it can sometimes release a slime explosion when taking hits, dealing AO damage to enemies. The Slime race might not seem flashy, but it's really good in certain matchups, especially against magic users. If you're looking for a defensive race with a fun gimmick, this one might surprise you. And that wraps up A tier. These races are strong, versatile, and can hold their own in almost any situation. But now, it's time for the best of the S tier races. Alright, before we break down the absolute best races in the game, let's take a second. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It seriously helps out a ton and lets us keep making more tier lists, guides, and updates for Rune Slayer. Plus, let us know in the comments which race are you running right now? Are you sticking with your favorite, or are you thinking of switching after this tier list? Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into S tier, the absolute best races in Rune Slayer. S tier races are the absolute best picks. Now we've arrived at S tier, the absolute best races in Rune Slayer. These races bring insane passives, strong abilities, and game-changing advantages that make them stand out from the rest. If you roll one of these, you're in luck because these are as meta as it gets. Dullahan, the unkillable force at the very top. We have the Dullahan, and honestly, this race is just on another level. It's packed with passives that make you incredibly hard to kill, especially in PvP. First off, you gain resistances just by taking down enemies, meaning the longer you fight, the stronger you become. It's a race built for sustained combat, and in tough battles, that's a massive advantage. But the real reason Dullahan is so powerful, you can survive even after death. If you lose all your HP, you actually get to keep fighting as just your head for a short time, which can completely turn a fight around. And on top of that, it comes with Soul Harvest, an ability that lets you wipe out enemies with a scythe attack. Dullahan is everything you could want in a racia: damage, survivability, and insane passives. Whether you're fighting mobs or facing off in PvP, this race is just unstoppable. Final thoughts, and that wraps up our Rune Slayer race tier list. Whether you're running an A tier or S tier race, every option has something to offer, but there's no doubt that Dullahan stands at the top right now. If you found this tier list helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Rune Slayer content, and let us know in the comments what race are you using right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.